What's up, everybody? It's your man PlyRock alongside his graciously beautiful co-host Preacher Oron, and this is episode 5 of Reboot Engage. What's going on, man? How are you, dude?
I'm doing great. Had a cigar, had some banana. I'm feeling good.
Oh, nice, man. We got some big stuff coming up this week, dude. We figured we'd run over. It's E3. This has been like the Super Bowl of video game stuff every year since I was a little kid, although it's constantly evolving and changing, sometimes not for the better. But this year, it's all, I think, virtual. It looks to be going Saturday the 11th through Tuesday the 15th. There's conferences all over the place, different locations. All the big companies except for Sony, they still have not thrown their hat back in the E3 ring. They just don't give a and they've jumped off. But Microsoft, this is what interested me the most. This is Microsoft's first joint conference with Bethesda. So this should be interesting. That is Sunday at 1 p.m. June 13th, so I'll be curious to see how that one plays out. But have you had any inkling about have you been excited about anything coming up for E3? I know it's been a tough year for gaming just in terms of new releases, and it's hard, but anything you're looking forward to see?
Well, are we talking specifically Microsoft? Because I mean,
no, in
I
general.
Think you've got okay, well, I mean, obviously there's Battlefield 6, which I believe should be getting some sort of
that is Wednesday,
major coverage.
Wednesday, June 9th at 10 a.m. EA will debut Battlefield 6.
Well, there you go. So yes, that is literally like I'm planning on building my entire stream. Like that will be the game I play on stream for a few months once it releases. That's, you know.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. The #1 rated PlyRock Nation channel for Battlefield 6. The congregation is going to be live with Battlefield. You're excited about it, I know, man. You're ready. You're probably ready to jump off that COD train a little bit, huh? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I still can enjoy it from time to time, but, you know, after you play a game for a certain amount of time, especially like a competitive game, a lot of the flaws really start to wear on you after a while. You know, things that they haven't corrected, even though they've known about it for a year, and some of it should be fairly simple to fix, and there's still, you know, some issues. So and it's just, even when they did a map upgrade or a map update on Warzone, it was just like they put a few new buildings on the map you were already playing. So, you know, it didn't give it that fresh feel. You know, you still basically knew what you were playing, and it kind of felt like the same old. So yeah, I'm ready for some new content, some new mechanics.
Yeah, and you had said in the past that Battlefield Bad Company 2 was like your favorite game ever. Like that's all you played the shit out of that one, right? So yeah. You're hoping you're hoping they can turn it around and kind of correct some of the mistakes they've been making with the last battle. Not that the last Battlefield games were bad, but they just seem to have not been able to hit that pinnacle again of the positive vibes and the games that they had produced back in the I want to say mid 2000s. Probably right up until Battlefield 4, if I'm not mistaken, right? Battlefield 4 was pretty good, but they had a bad launch, if I remember. It wasn't working right. There was some weird, it was buggy. There was a DLC update that they had to give away for free. I'm going off memory here, so if I'm wrong, you know, correct me in the comments.
Your memory is as good as mine. I think that's about right. Here's the funny thing. I do remember Battlefield 2's launch. I mean, Battlefield Bad Company 2's launch. People, we loved the game after it, but it was rough. It was real. I remember going into maps, and there was nothing on the map other than it looked like a nuke had went off. There's just all these like divots that they program into the game for like if a big bomb goes off right there.
Yeah.
And so, like, you would go into a map, and it was just, there's nothing but, so they had, all Battlefield games kind of had some issues releasing, but they kind of, like, I guess the Battlefield community was always willing to kind of give them some time to work it out. And the thing is, they did it quickly. Like, within a month, they would get it to where it was, like, playable, and then within 2 or 3 months, it was, like, where it needed to be, pristine, you know, running smooth.
Well, that was the engine they used, right? Didn't they use that crazy engine at the time that was revolutionary, where everything could be destroyed?
Yep.
Wasn't that, like, the big claim to fame with them, right? Like, no, you can't hide me in a building because we'll blow up the building.
That was a big thing. Yes, and it was brand new tech. It was, you know, so yeah, it did take some time. They were actually like, it was almost started as like a tech demo, kind of like Crysis was for their thing. It's like
Yeah.
They were showing off what it could do, and so anytime you do that, you're going to get a little bit of a hiccup in your performance.
Yeah, I just don't. I mean, EA's got to kind of wrap their brain around some of this stuff, man. Like I think at this point, I mean, honestly, EA kind of reminds me of like the cable company. They're just like, we don't give a fuck. They're just like, their coffers are always full for the most part, and people will continue to dump, like I think in any other franchise, like look at Cyberpunk with its rough launch and all the bad press it got and everything. Madden is by far, and I know I'm going to get some hate on this, but I don't care. Madden 20, Madden 21, whatever, by far, just reskins of Madden 19, right? Like, I don't even know if the effort, I mean, if you play Madden 20, I can't confirm it in 21, but I've seen it in 20. If you play Madden 20, the fucking stadiums still say Madden 19 in them. Like, they're just like, whatever. And every year, people just dump down tons of money for roster updates and basically legalize gambling inside these games, right? So, the fact that I don't think EA cares. Like, they maybe pretend to care. Like with Battlefront, Star Wars Battlefront 1, hot trash when it came out, 4 maps and like 6 dudes and like a couple vehicles. And they worked hard and they kind of got the reputation of the game up a little bit, the developers. And I'm not shitting on the developers at all. I know that there's always someone above you who, upper management's always pulling the strings, cutting something out of a game or trying to make you wear a prom dress or something, so I totally get it. But in terms of like Battlefront 2, they were oh yeah, we got this single player story, we're coming in hot, it's gonna be awesome. And then you get this story that's like 2 hours long or whatever, right? Then they drop in the loot boxes, which are basically just a transplant from Madden over into they were trying, if we're making a shit ton of money in the sports world doing this, let's go throw this in. And the fans and the gamers went crazy. And then they pulled back on it, but that never really seemed like EA likes to be sorry in the moment. Oh, our bad. We made a mistake with that. Our bad. But they never seem to. Like, I think ultimately they really don't care about their reputation, which is the one thing that scares me about Battlefield 6. It makes me hesitant to play any EA games, to be honest with you. Anthem was garbage. Like, they pushed... and it shouldn't have been. It was a mess. Like, I don't know what the hell they did with Plants vs. Zombies at this point, but just whatever they make so much money that... And they have the big licenses... Although it is very cool that NFL 2K has been teased more and more and more to give Madden a run for its money. I think the big problem is the competition's gone, right?
Yeah, they had zero competition. At least for, like, that's the funny thing. EA, their basketball has basically struggled because they've applied some of the same principles they've been applying to Madden.
Yeah.
And since they have to compete against 2K, they're getting slaughtered. Everybody just plays 2K. But then again, 2K is as dirty as they come now. Draining people money for the past two games have been like you literally cannot compete unless you're willing to put like $120 into the game after you bought it.
Yeah, no, they're definitely learning their way around. It's basically legalized gambling, man. That's what it's, It's sneaking gambling into video games, which is, they don't even mark it on the box, dude, which I think is the dirtiest part. Like, gambling is supposed to get you an automatic teen rating, and some of these games, they sneak in gambling, and they don't even list it, so parents and everybody can make a decision on what they want their children or whoever playing. So, a little bit of dirty practices there, I agree, but EA, I think, is the pinnacle of some of that stuff.
Yeah. And now, didn't they come out with a Star Wars game that was kind of like it was a single player that everybody liked?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, it was the one with the Ginger Jedi there.
Yeah, and I was going to play it, but everybody else was playing it, so there was it's one of those.
Yeah, I played it a little bit. It was, it was a solid game. That was a solid. Like I said, I've never blamed the developers because I know DICE is probably one of the best studios in the world. Mm-hmm. Their games, like the Battlefield games, are almost unrivaled in how beautiful they are. Like,
and they run well. Like, I went back and played last week or the week before? I went back and played Battlefield 5 during a stream. It was fun. I had a good time playing it. It was a decent game.
Yeah, they clean them up.
Yeah, there's some flaws, but I mean, otherwise, as far as like some game mechanics that you almost have to have a team to play with. I went in solo and that kind of, but that's beside the point. It ran smooth. It looked pretty. Well, it seemed like they hit where they were supposed to hit. As far as that aspect of it, it was fun. It just wasn't, Battlefield 4 or older, but that I was actually leading myself into this because they've been on record saying that this Battlefield will be a direct sequel to Battlefield 4. As far as story, as far as plot, and as far as like the kind of weapons and technology you get, which I think is also a big part. Most people, it's fun to every now and then dabble World War II stuff, but when you get down to it, they enjoy using what I would say either future tech or near future tech, like near modern weapons. Tech. Yeah, they like using that kind of stuff where you have a red dot. You can have, do some stuff that it just feels cleaner when you're shooting it, when you're using it. It feels better to use, and so I think them going back to that will help some. Yeah, they're going back to their sweet spot a little bit, and they did get a lot of flack for the past Battlefields, and it felt like they were pumping them out too fast. So they've taken extra time with this, which also gives me some hope because that was also part of the reason. They're working on Battlefront too, aren't they? Isn't it the same? Isn't DICE do both? So they're working on Star Wars as well when they were doing Battlefront 2, weren't they? I'm trying to think. I don't know if that was... Pretty sure that they were both DICE. I mean, you'd have to Google it while I bloviate for 30 seconds while you look it up, but I'm pretty sure it was... I remember the head of DICE having to come out at E3 a couple of years ago. It was probably a couple of years ago, and he got flogged by the audience. Like, EA put him out there, that poor guy, to apologize for Battlefront 2. Okay, and he just got slaughtered in front of the crowd. It looked like a public hanging, and he had to come out, the loot box issue, he had to come out and apologize for it. Okay, gave us blah blah blah. Yeah, said it there blah earlier, blah blah made it not, okay. It did not. Pretty sure. I read it. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the Google because the Google actually said it. It was developed by EA DICE in collaboration with Criterion Games and Motive Studios. All right, so it was DICE. I mean, I don't know if they did the whole thing, but I was wondering how much like Criterion Games and Motive Studios. It's like, but that's their engine, isn't it? Yeah. So. The engine in Battlefield 5, the engine in Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2, which to this day I think are the most beautiful shooters ever made, by the way. So Battlefront 1 and 2 visually are insane. Yeah. They're insane. But the game, Battlefront 1 was bland. Battlefront 2 has a good following now, and a lot of people do enjoy it. They took but it took them a few years to clean that whole thing up, man. Yeah, so I'm not necessarily looking forward to EA's conference, but I never do. But I know you are because you are super jazzed for Battlefield 6. I do hope it's good. I do think that FPS fans do need something new, something big, and I think Call of Duty needs a little bit more of a real competition in that realm, and that they seem to better each other when they're against each other, and they seem when one of them falters, the other one seems to not give a rat's ass. Like, it's like, but if they're both on top of their game, I don't think anybody loses. You know what I mean? I agree. Oh, yeah. Whoops. But I'm excited I think there's another conference that you're going to be excited for. The Ubisoft conference is Saturday, June 12th at 3 p.m. Okay. And one of the things I was disappointed in, because I was kind of hoping to see where they would take this, but I think they're kind of run its course with it. But they claim there's probably going to be some new content. There's not going to be any new announcements about Division 2 or the Division World. And I really enjoyed the Division 1 after its rough launch, when they cleaned it up and made it a lot better. The end game of Division 1, I think, is fantastic. And Division 2, I thought was always a good game with not enough content at the end for a while. Had this weird cycle system where it's like, okay, go do the zoo again. Okay, go do this again. It was kind of like... Right, I hate that kind of... Yeah, I hate super repetitive. But they did add, like, New York back to it, which was really good. They ended some storylines. They worked hard on it for a while. They redid the gear system in it a lot better. The game's beautiful. I mean, Ubisoft is... They are almost unparalleled in how beautiful they make their games as well. So credit to them on that. It's artistry to me. And, but even though they kind of said a couple of months ago live online, I think it was via Twitter or something, that there was new Division 2 content in the works. However, they were going to recycle some seasons to help people get things because they didn't realize the demand would be so good they'd kind of run their course on their plans. And I don't know if it was successful enough to deliver a Division 3 so soon. However, it was successful enough where they said, let's let these guys continue to develop Division 2 content within that world
new expansion type stuff. But there will be no Division announcements at E3. So that kind of disappointed me a little bit because I was kind of excited to see where it would go. However, I am curious to hear, and I understand why they did it. They did change the name of Rainbow Six Quarantine. It's no longer Rainbow Six Quarantine. I think it's pretty obvious why they got rid of the word quarantine. Right. But, you know, I get it. And then I am excited, and I know you are too, for Far Cry 6. So they're going to be Far Cry 6, and they are going to be showing a lot of gameplay and features of Far Cry 6, which they claim is the biggest Far Cry they've ever made, which doesn't shock me because every time Ubisoft makes a game, they're like, let's make the map bigger and let's put more mundane shit for you to do in it on top of the story. So, right. Okay, you know, like they just always overbloat their games with things to do. So I am excited I like the trailer for Far Cry 6. I loved Far Cry 5. I played it with you. We played some of it. I loved it, dude. I loved the atmosphere. I loved the storyline. I so enjoyed. I did not play Far Cry 4, you know, in fairness. I never played 4, but I did beat 2 a long time ago. I did beat 3. I loved 3 until Vargas died. I think that was his name in it, right?
Yeah.
There was like this bad guy in Far Cry 3. Yeah. I think it was Vargas.
It was Vargas, yeah.
Yeah, and then he dies. Spoiler alert, the game's fucking 7 years old, but you get rid of him like halfway through the game because like you think he's the main villain, but he's really not the leader of like this evil group or whatever's going on. It's this other guy, and the other guy sucks. Like he doesn't hold a candle to Vargas. Vargas is so entertaining in the game. Once you're done with him, you're like, oh fuck, we got to deal with this other Lex Luthor type villain. And it was kind of
similar to the Resident Evil Village, like you were talking about that with Resident Evil.
Yeah, with
Village.
Lady D. Yeah,
it had the same vibe where you're like, well, we kind of got past the most exciting, villain. Now what? You know,
it's the same. Like I don't think sometimes they realize the emotional connection that the audience is going to make with some of these characters, and so they, they think they're creative, they're cool, they're funny, but they don't I mean, it's like anything, right? It's like a viral video. You don't realize the video is going to go viral. You think it's just funny, or you do something and then it goes viral. So it's the same. I think with Vargas, they were like, this dude's funny. They got a good actor to play him. The lines were delivered well. The dialogue was great. Dude was nuts, having a good time, clearly. And they just knock him off, and you're like, shit, what do we do now? And then, we have the villain. It's, Mr. Brown killed Mrs. Peacock in the library with a wrench. And everybody's like, dude, this guy's cookie cutter, bad CEO bullshit. And you're like, you're falling asleep. Like this is... Every movie, it's the evil CEO, blah, blah, blah. So you're just like, whatever. So I am super pumped for Far Cry 6, dude.
Me too. I did play Far Cry 4, and it was great. I thought I'd like it.
You did?
As well.
I never played it. I want to.
It was, actually, the bad guy in that one, he does last, and he's also very entertaining.
Yes.
I will say, even going back to what we were saying about Far Cry 5, I streamed that recently, and I did it with Evil, and there's actually some really fun... Like, if you bring a buddy along, there's these, like, car stunt races you have to do. And if you do it with 2 of you, either one of you can basically complete it. I mean, it's a little bit glitchy, so sometimes it doesn't work that way. But anyway, it made some great content. It's very funny, because, it's making you do stuff that, normally you wouldn't do, and you have to be really precise with, and it was good stuff. So I'm hoping that they do have some more co-op or based content, because I do think there's actually some really good fun times to be had inside of the Far Cry universe with someone else.
It's funny too that Far Cry started as like this weird science fiction story. If I remember correctly, the original Far Cry, you boated to an island with your girlfriend, and like some bad guys were there and they kidnapped her or whatever, and like you got mutated and you had like these powers. Am I wrong? In the original,
I don't remember if you got powers, but
you came like an animal,
fought,
dude.
I think you fought like chimeras. It was like the island of Dr. Monroe. There's just a bunch of like half animal, half human stuff that you fought.
Yeah, and wasn't it like wasn't there like an expansion, Far Cry Predator or something, Apex, something like that, where like you had these animal powers and you were like a lion or some shit, like you could see, you were like a cat, I swear. The original Far Cry.
I believe, yeah.
Then Far Cry 2, I believe, was in Africa.
Yes.
It was like Southern Africa, South Africa, maybe, like something like South Africa, I should say, right? Then Far Cry 3 was the tropical island where the Jake and Logan Paul were like jumping out of planes, and then they were like skydivers or something, and they got stuck there. And this dude, college dude, and his buddies. So none of the Far Cries are connected, right?
I don't think so.
They're all separate universe.
Technically, Far Cry 5 and then the New World or whatever, the one that came out after that, were connected. But that was because
that was an expansion. That was the guy's daughter.
Yes, it was intended to be an expansion, and they decided to make it a full game. But yes, it was intended just to be like a DLC for it, basically. They just exploded it up. But other than that, I don't think there's a direct connection between any of the games, though.
Yeah. Which I actually think is pretty cool. Like you can sneak little Easter eggs in there maybe to connect them a little bit, but I think that gives creative license to create a whole new world. Kind of like Final Fantasy, right? So each Final Fantasy is generally not connected to the previous Final Fantasy. It's its own universe. And hey, if Far Cry 5 is a big enough hit, you can make a New Dawn. Make a sequel to it, or direct Final Fantasy X2, I think was one of them. Yep. Yeah, or Final Fantasy 13.7 Lightning Strikes Again, or whatever that shitty one was. Man, Final Fantasy 13 sucked.
Yeah, I didn't like that one. That was actually one that I was not a fan of either. I remember. I like it as much as I like any Final, but I didn't love it like I did some of the previous.
I remember playing that game for the first time on my PlayStation 3. I was so hyped to play it because this was like one of those real new generation, like next gen. This is it. This is the big one. And I just remember being in the first hallway where you like running on this metal bridge in like this like industrial looking area, and literally you were on this fucking bridge for like 6 fucking hours running down this fighting one little wave of enemies at a time, and then every time you'd fight enemies they would talk and bicker your characters, and then you'd go fight another tutorial fight about the enemies, and then it would be like, all right, now you gotta turn-based combat, so use your twirl or use your pull up your mega earthworm spell or whatever the fuck. And then it was like 6 hours. I'm like, and I don't even think we got to an open world in Final Fantasy 13 until like you were like 20 hours into it.
I like how you helped your credibility with a mega earthworm spell. That's solid. He's just clearly a Final Fantasy fan with that one.
Yeah, let's go. So, oh man, I stream Final Fantasy 14 all the time. I got the receipts to prove it, baby. All the payments I made to them. So, but
I have one too.
I know. You got one too. I know, but it's tough. It's tough to.
I know. I get it.
That was one of my beautiful business ideas, but I think it really helps though to keep the creativity in its own universe, because then you're free to create all new shit.
Yeah, you don't have to stay 100% true to the previous. New characters can have completely new personalities, and you can tweak the world a little. Like, there's always going to be like the spells, they retain like the spell names, and usually they keep chocobos and moogles.
Yeah,
or,
the Easter eggs. The Easter eggs. Yeah, the moogles, right?
Moogles. I said moogle. Okay, yeah, I got it right. And then
Is it moogle or mogul?
I think it's a moogle. M-O-O-G-L-E.
I don't know. They look like chizards to me. But anyway, so that's what's going on with Ubisoft. I'd be surprised if we're really going to have many surprises this year, just because we're coming out of the pandemic and all the slowdown in business for a lot of these companies. I don't mean slowdown in the money they made. I mean slowdown in being together to work on massive projects in the office. But there are some other ones coming that I'm super excited for. Oh, I'm actually, for the first time this year, I am going to watch Warner Brothers going to have their own presentation, and I am really excited for Back 4 Blood. There's 2 games coming out with Warner Brothers Entertainment that I'm super excited for, and there's one I was excited for that they already said. I'm sorry, there's 2 that I was kind of interested in that they have said will not be at E3 this year because they're not ready to be shown. So the 2 that I'm excited for is Back for Blood, which is the
Left 4 Dead, basically.
Yeah, it's the spirited sequel to Left 4 Dead 2. It's the same studio, same guys, same people, same everything. Valve let them go. Warner Brothers scooped up the studio and funded a project for them to make a brand new, up-to-date Left 4 Dead style game. So I'm super hyped about that because I remember the Left 4 Dead nights back in the day on the Xbox 360, and like you had talked about Battlefield Bad Company 2 to circle back to your feelings and how you felt playing that. I can go back and think of the nights of Left 4 Dead 2 with, Domino's pizza in a box on the couch next to me, empty beer bottles on the coffee table right in front of me, man, and just lighting it up with my friends just till 4 or 5 in the morning, that game. And it only had 4 levels, but we didn't care. It was insane, that game. So I'm so excited for Back for Blood. And I'm equally as excited for Dying Light 2, which is also Warner Brothers. So Warner Brothers going all in on zombie action this year.
Zombies, that's what I'm saying. It'll be done as the zombie company.
But Dying Light was fantastic.
Yep.
Dying Light 2 looks to be, it's going to take place like I think 20 or 30 years after Dying Light. It looks fantastic. Like I just don't see them screwing this game up, man. Plus, it's been in development, which feels like forever, so they've definitely had the time. So those are the 2 games that I'm Now, the 2 games I'm kind of disappointed that they're not going to show this year at E3, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. There is a gigantic, supposedly, Harry Potter open world game that they have been working on for a while.
Heard about that, yeah.
That is supposed to be a top-notch role-playing open-world game with Harry Potter in the Harry Potter universe. That one is not going to be shown, and the Suicide Squad, DC Comics has a big Warner Brothers game coming out, which is kind of going to be DC's answer to Marvel's The Avengers from Square Enix. However, that game wasn't very good, so I don't think they have much to answer for. However, it looked good. Is supposed, and by all accounts, behind the scenes with all the celebrities that talk to us on a daily basis and kind of give us inside scoop once in a while.
I'm texting them.
Yeah, when they tweet at other people, but we just happen to read them. It looks to be like it's going to be a halfway decent game. So not shocked that they're not going to show them. However, a little disappointed that I'm curious to see Harry Potter, man. Like I think Harry Potter deserves. I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan, with Hermione and what. Tweagle or whatever his buddy's name is, but I think that universe and that fan base deserves an actually good video game.
I would agree with that. I think the universe that Harry Potter occurs in should have a good video game. I'm not personally a huge...
And I think
I've watched
EA
the movies,
used to make them.
Fan, but
EA used to make them, remember, for like PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and they were those stereotypical, movie to video game games, and they're just, shut the fuck up. It's almost like video games don't translate well usually to movies, and movies generally are shitty when they become video games. Generally, not all the time, but...
Yeah, I think sometimes they try too hard to almost replicate the movies, instead of take the universe and then make a good video game in that universe. They try to almost like replicate the movie or try too hard to and then they also take another video game property and try to shove, I remember there was some sort of Quidditch game and they're like basically trying to take a sports game and try to mix it with this. And it was bad. Everything about it was bad. And so I don't know. I think the possibilities are there, but they try too hard to tap into the current instead of just like saying, let's take this universe and take a completely new idea and let's make a good video game that just happens to exist in this universe. They try too hard to tie it in, and that usually ruins it.
They always feel like cash grabs, number one, to me, a lot of them. Number two, I think a lot of times the developers are trapped by they cannot be creative because it's a movie license. So you have a producer mentality seriously breathing down your neck to protect their property, right?
Listen, I've heard a lot of video games got sabotaged, not by the video game company, like even the evil EA, but it got sabotaged by the movie.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Company.
And then on top of that, I think there's always a time crunch because they're always trying to aim these games to come out when the interest level of the movie or the book or whatever is coming out is at its peak. Like, I can give an example, and I do love this game, and I'll probably get a little bit of shit for it because it's not a very good game, but it's very near and dear to my heart. Enter the Matrix for PlayStation 2 was a concept that if they had pulled it off would have been so fucking cool. But Atari was not able to. The game was buggy as shit. It only worked because of the Matrix. You played basically, I don't know if you remember the game. You played as Jada Pinkett Smith. The video game was woven in between the Matrix Reloaded. So you had to watch the Matrix Reloaded to kind of know what was going on in the video game, and you kind of had to play the video game to know what was going on in some parts of the movie, right? For example, there is a scene when Morpheus is fighting the agents on top of the trailer, which is one of the best scenes ever in a fucking movie. Don't at me, bro. But that particular scene where they're kung fu fighting on top of that trailer, Jada Pinkett Smith's character is all of a sudden on the freeway and she crashes into the truck to save Morpheus when the agent is about to kill him. And you're like, where the fuck did she come from? Like, she just showed up? But in the video game, they shot extra scenes from the movie specifically for the game with the same crew, and they designed a whole level to get you to that truck to save Morpheus. So you understood how our character plugged into the Matrix, had to run through this, had to do that. But you wouldn't have known that had you not, because in the movie you're like, okay, that's cheap. If you're just watching the movie, they did correct a lot of the with the Path of Neo, which came out after the Matrix movies were finished, so it was a little bit better of a game, and they had a little bit of, which was a cool kung fu game, still buggy because Atari just couldn't get their shit together, but it was cool too. But that kind of reminds me of that, where I specifically remember all the Harry Potter games just being like, what is this, dude? Like, my kids wouldn't even want. If I was a kid, I wouldn't even want to play this. Most of them. Yeah. Like, they would release one game every year or whatever when the movie came out. Right when the movie came out, it was just and I'm so glad that Warner Brothers is taking the time to honor those fans, to honor that universe. They're going to make a shit ton of money doing it, because I think Warner Brothers, man, very underrated video game studio. Batman Arkham series.
Didn't they do the Batman? Yeah.
Dying Light. They keep this up. Back 4 Blood is good. Harry Potter game coming. Warner Brothers has a lot of licenses under their belt. Time Warner. I don't even know if it's still Time Warner, but Warner Brothers, they got a lot of movie properties, old and new, that they could really run the table with. And on top of that, they've got access to all the DC characters, which they clearly don't know how to make very good movies for them most of the time. But they could really, right? I mean, they make kick-ass video games with them. Yeah. So, and I will say this, bar none, DC's TV shows as of right now and DC's cartoons have got Marvel, but Marvel's movies are obviously superior to DC's, right? DC, I mean, Warner Brothers Warner Brothers could make a Dirty Harry video game franchise and I would buy it if it was good. You know what I mean? Or like, just, you know what I mean? Like, they're very underrated video game publisher. I really do believe that, like, especially with their recent successes, like, they're just pumping out quality shit. Rocksteady Studios is under them with Batman. They got a new game that I think they're handling, I could be wrong, but I think they're handling the Suicide Squad game. But you know, like, they just have the right people in place. Dying Light was so good. I mean, I could see it. I could see them being the surprise at E3. You heard it here first. You know, that I'm telling you, man, that's a stock I would buy, bro. Like, if I was Elon Musk, I'd be like, buy Warner Brothers video game stock. I don't even know if they have it, but buy it.
Well, you were saying that they weren't going to show the Harry Potter game, or what was the other one they weren't going to show?
The Harry Potter game is a no-go, and the Suicide Squad's a no-go this year.
Okay, well, that's what I was saying. I don't know if there'll be a surprise at E3 just because they're bringing 2 games, basically. Well, and I think it's 2 games people have been watching and kind of paying attention. So I'm saying I don't know if that'd be a surprise. I think people are expecting those to be good. Like, I think, you know.
No, what I'm saying.
Previous. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know what else they're bringing. Those are the 2 that I wrote down because they were. But what I'm saying is, I think they're very underrated is what I'm saying. I think a lot of these other studios like Bethesda and all these guys get all this credit. And Warner Brothers Interactive, especially, you know, over time, they just have, their games have been always, except for Arkham Knight's PC debacle, is the only thing I can think of off the top of my head in the past decade that was a total disaster because it just didn't work. It was a not work issue. It worked beautifully on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It just didn't work on PC at all. So whoever did the conversion completely screwed that up, right?
Yeah.
But other than that, they've been pumping out good shit for a while, and I'm just saying, if they have these developers in place, they just have access to these licenses where they could give Disney a run for their money. I mean, the only real competition to Disney movies and the Disney movie studio at this point is Warner Brothers.
Yep.
It's HBO Warner Brothers, right? Everybody else is kind of a small fish in that ever shrinking world, right? So
yeah.
I mean, look, they got Godzilla versus King Kong. Imagine the games they could pump out about that if they stopped making, right now the last Godzilla game was shit, but that wasn't made by Warner Brothers. Like, just get the right people in place, man. It would just be dope. So I didn't mean that. I just meant that what they could show this year could really blow the socks off everybody, and people could say, finally, here's the respect you deserve. Warner Brothers Interactive has arrived. That's what I meant.
No, I agree. I think they, like you said, they've been consistently good, so I can't disagree with that too much. I mean, I wonder if it's a matter of, like, of course, Bethesda doesn't put that much out. Of course, Bethesda's they were real high when Skyrim came out, and then, they've had Fallout 76 that kind of brought them back down to earth a little bit. And, they've had a few things that kind of brought them, humbled them a little bit. And I think that's maybe why they're taking so long with the next Skyrim, is they want to make sure it comes out and it, reestablishes their position as a top tier, you can trust that they're going to put something out that's good. But yeah, I'm trying to think, because like you mentioned some games, but those are for the most part kind of spread out. The Batman Arkham's weren't, but they were also fairly like similar, and it's kind of like the Call of Duties, right? Like they kind of use the same engine, so they're not rewriting the playbook with any of their stuff. So maybe that's why they don't get quite as much credit as they should, because it's not very often that they put it. Some of these like EA. I mean, we talked about EA, but EA puts out 45 games a year. It's like
I'm gonna do this for you right now, because I just looked up Warner Brothers Interactive and their list of video games, right?
All right.
Just because we're missing some big ones that we didn't even think of, right?
Okay.
They came out with Lego Batman the video game, so they're basically they're pumping out the Lego games, right?
Okay.
We forgot about Fear. They should redo Fear. Fear was amazing. Fear 1 and Fear 2. Fear 3 was shit, to be fair, right? We got Batman. You got Scribblenauts, which was a kind of a big one in handheld. The handheld world.
Yeah, Scribblenauts. Yep.
All right. You got Rock Band. You got all Lego Harry Potter, which is still the Lego. I never played Lord of the Rings: Aragon's Quest. I don't think I played that one.
I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, and I never played it either, so I have no idea.
What else they got here? DC Universe Online. I played 5 years of that.
No.
Right? They're responsible for Mortal Kombat. So the new Mortal Kombat games are all them. That's NetherRealm Studios, which means they also do DC's Injustice.
Okay. Yeah.
So I mean, it's just really
they're pretty. Yeah, they.
I mean,
almost all quality. Yeah,
Lollipop Chainsaw.
None of those are bad. Yeah, you don't. Yeah.
No, I mean, there's some shitty ones on here. Don't get me wrong, as I'm scrolling down. But they also bought Midway. Remember Midway? Midway was the original Mortal Kombat Pit Fighter arcade company. But as I scroll down here, I see a bunch of pretty good games. And I didn't realize, I forgot they made the Lego games. They're making a killing off those. And those generally don't suck. For kids, kids have a great time with those. I'm going as fast as I can. Oh, Jurassic World Evolution.
Yeah.
They had a hand in that, even though that's Universal. Shadow of War, Middle Earth, Warner Brothers.
Mm-hmm. Those are, I actually played the first one, which was really good.
And then like I said, Hogwarts Legacy is the big one we were talking about. Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, that's the other one from Rocksteady Studios that we were talking about. There's another one coming out called Gotham Knights, which appears to be a battle royale style game set within Gotham City, where the bad guys fight each other. But and then there's a Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is coming too. So I just think they're never talked about when the big boys are talked about. That's all. I think it's kind of disappointing that now that I'm looking at their list, they might be my favorite video game studio this week. I mean, I love them. I'm in love with them now.
So I'm sure they'll put that plaque in their offices.
Yeah, right next to
PlyRock's favorite video game studio of the week.
So there is going to be no Elder Scrolls 6 this year. Bethesda's already made that clear.
I've already got my sackcloth and ashes.
But I do have to real quick give props to Microsoft for, I know a lot of people doubted the direction they were going to go with a lot of things they were doing in this next generation of systems. The Xbox Game Pass, to me, is the best value in gaming today. It's $5 a month if you're on PC. I think at this point, it could have went up a little bit.
For the base, yes. If you want access to all the new games,
it's 10,
including
maybe
EA and stuff like that, it's 15.
Okay, but if you pay the 15, you get it across your Xbox Series X and the PC.
Yeah.
I think Microsoft, and I could be wrong, but this is my gut feeling. Microsoft acquiring Bethesda. Microsoft is not going to allow Bethesda to do some of the bullshit that they've done in the past and get away with it. I think there's going to be a higher level of delivery now. They're not going to allow a Fallout 76 to come out again. Mm-hmm. I really do. I really don't. I don't think they would allow Todd Howard now as a boss, right? And I like Todd. I know he's a brilliant guy. He's made brilliant games, but he really stiffed us all when he talked about Fallout 76 at E3. Oh, this is 27 times better than Fallout 4, and look at the colors, and full of shit. All they did was take the broken Fallout 4 multiplayer thing that they scrapped a while ago, and it had the same everything, the same plant, the same graphics, same broken cars, same everything, right? So I don't really believe Microsoft. I think that Microsoft Game Studios is really trying to upend Sony, and they don't want any bullshit. I really think they're going to be like, look, Halo Infinite, you guys released that trailer. It was popping. It was ugly. What the fuck are you doing? Pull that shit out of there and clean that up. We want the best.
Actually, this is a very interesting issue. I was going to mention this. An article came out that I read today from one of the computer PC gaming type people, or just a gaming publisher. And they were talking about how somebody who is inside of Microsoft interviewed with them anonymously, obviously, because they always say that. But he said that like the visuals were not next level. They were not next tier
for Infinite.
It was for Infinite, for the new Halo.
Yeah, it wasn't. You saw the trailer. You were like,
yeah. Well, I mean, but everybody's like, oh, they're gonna fix it. That was just it. They're gonna go in there and they're gonna just put in all the stuff that needs to be in. And he was like,
that's fanboy bullshit.
Yeah, they said, not to expect. I mean, it'll still look decent. I mean, the last one looked decent. It's just it's just not going to be like what everybody's expecting. This like life-altering new.
You can't. It's open world.
Yeah,
it's not a mission-based like the old Halos, right? Where you got the next map, the next map. Isn't it supposed to be an open world type multiplayer jump in, jump out type Borderlands-y type game, right? So it's not good. They're not going to be able to generate that type of graphical fidelity that they could on a walking simulator horror game where you're just walking down one hallway and you're like, you're doing one specific thing. So obviously, Red Dead Redemption 2 aside, no one else has really been able to pull that off besides Rockstar, right? So they got to scale it back a little bit. So but the trailer was ugly, dude. When they put out the trailer, you're like, what is this, Xbox 360? Like, this is
like, it looked worse than the last Halo game.
Yeah,
it actually looked worse. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, dude. And then people were trying to defend it, and I'm like, I get it. I guess if I was so in love with Master Chief, I'd be defending it too. But what is it? What's the name of that studio? 343 Studio that makes Halo now that Bungie has moved over to Destiny.
Yes,
it's 343 maybe.
Yep.
Studio
343. Yeah,
they lost a lot of their street cred with Halo 5 because they marketed that as a one-on-one battle between Master Chief and that other guy, and that everybody was hunting Master Chief. Something was going on,
right?
And that was like 3 minutes of the game. Like every commercial was, we gotta find the Master Chief, and Master Chief was like, yeah, I'm gonna find you too, bro. And then like it was just like, that was like 3 minutes of the game. And you're like, dude, what just happened? So they really lost a lot of their street cred on that one. Plus they had huge bug issues with Halo, the Master Chief Collection, connection issues, all this crap that they were working on forever. So the pressure is probably on, Microsoft is probably on them pretty hard with like, this is our first big boy release for our system, like big boy release. We're gonna give you one more holiday season to get this right, because it was supposed to come out, I think, this past holiday season, right?
Yeah, they delayed it for a year because people were so upset with it.
You better nail this bullseye, dude. Like, so 343, who I think is a talented studio, their pressure is on for this one, man. But I am excited to see Microsoft and Bethesda working together. We might get an update on, what's it called? Star, what's that one called they've been working on forever?
I just looked at it. Hold on. Starfield, I think.
Starfield.
I had it.
I have a feeling Starfield is going to kind of go the way of Cyberpunk.
Yes. Let's see. The graphic strongly hints Bethesda's long-in-the-works Starfield being a big part of the event. In fact, we'd expect that a long look at the new and improved Halo Infinite to dominate this show. If a Todd Howard presentation is on your E3 bingo card this year, the odds are good for it to be Starfield. There you go.
Yeah, and I'd like to see it. I'm curious about it because they've been mentioning it for 4 years.
Yeah, and it's their next big RPG. Like, this is the RPG that had to come out before they could really even start working on the next
Elder Scrolls.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they put out.
I'm curious.
It's Bethesda's first big RPG for Microsoft.
And I'm curious to see too what they're going to announce in terms of the Elder Scrolls Online. That sucker's been pumping for 6-7 years.
Yeah, it's been around for a while,
and they just keep dropping expansion after expansion after expansion on it. And I like it, to be honest with you. I actually enjoy it. So I'm curious to see where they're going to go with that one too. So that's pretty much all I have for E3.
Okay, I was going to talk about Halo because what they said in this article was interesting. It said that they're probably not going to focus on the story as much. They're going to focus on the free-to-play multiplayer, which got a lot of hype because it was leaked that it was free-to-play, and now that it has been confirmed that it is, in fact, a free-to-play multiplayer. Some people have tried to guess whether or not that means it's going to be like a battle royale, like almost like a Warzone but in Halo universe, or if it's going to be classic Halo multiplayer, only people can get into it without having to own the single player portion of the game.
I hope it's not that.
Yeah, so we'll see. But I'm thinking if it's free to play, it sounds more and more like it would be right. Like everybody's making battle royale, so I would guess they might try to do that. But I guess we'll find out. But it is free to play, so that gives us at least a little bit of a hint of the direction that you will be able to access it without owning the game. It means beyond that we don't know.
I have never been able to get into, and I have wanted to like it so much, and I have tried so many times. I love Halo single player stories and campaigns. I have so much fun with them. I have never been able to fall in love with the multiplayer. I hate the shields. I hate jumping around 18 feet in the air. I have never been able to. No matter who I light up with that plasma rifle, I can never get a kill. Like, it's just a totally different feel than a Call of Duty or a Battlefield.
Yeah, you're a boots on the ground kind of guy.
Yes, and I hated when Call of Duty went jetpack. Hated it. Was it Advanced Warfare, I think? I'm like, what are you guys doing? So Halo to me has always been, and I understand a lot of people love it. I've always wanted to love it. I'm like, let me play this again. Because I've always loved the single player stories. Like, I've always beaten them. I've always had so much fun with them. And I go play the multiplayer, even in the Master Chief Collection, at least once every 6 months. I have this dumbass idea to download all 120 gigs of it again, just so I can play 3 minutes of a multiplayer match and go, oh yeah, I forgot, I don't really like this much. And then I leave again. It's like, because I just always wanted to like it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So.
No, I get it. I don't know. I'm interested in it. It depends when it comes out. I think that has, like, when it releases. I think if it releases the same time as Battlefield, it'll struggle. Because I think most people are. I mean, I don't know. I think Halo, but especially if it's only on Xbox, because It also depends on how cross-platform it is and how that works, and whether or not, like, who does the cross-platform the best, if they do it at all. And I heard Battlefield. This is something I heard about the Battlefield 6 that we went past, but I wanted is that they're not going to have cross-generation. So Xbox Series X's are not going to play with the old, because they said it broke the game. Like, they had to downgrade it so far between the two different platforms that they couldn't make it run. So I'm hoping that means that they are planning on letting, like, Xbox X, Series X, and PlayStation 5s play with PCs, so that there's a big enough player base that they, people will be playing it, and then they won't have to, take a too big of a financial hit while still making it available for the last gen, which I'd say still the majority of people still own, and they can play within their own communities.
I think the people who have invested hundreds and hundreds of dollars and invested their time trying to get one of these systems that are just not available right off the bat when you can walk into Best Buy and pick one up and leave, and have bought these 4K monitors or 4K TVs to enjoy 4K or whatever else they've invested to enjoy the next generation of gaming. I think it's a huge disservice to them.
I agree.
And this is a shot at Sony right now, right? And I'm a Sony fanboy. It's a huge disservice to your forward-thinking customers who are spending premium dollars now while these things are brand new and scarce. It's a disservice to them and their loyalty when you retroactively make a game like God of War Ragnarok and everybody's so excited for it, and you make it come out on PS5, PS4, fucking PS3, Game Boy, whatever else you're doing. If you're just taking, that means the developer is not optimizing the game for the technology in front of them. They are trying to do what they can to make that technology work across multiple platforms. This is one of the reasons I quit DC Universe Online. Because when it went from PlayStation 3 to PlayStation 4, all they did was slap a little bit of paint on it, and they're like, here you go. And then it's moved over to PS5 and PC, and I'm still playing a PS3 game. I'm like, bro, I'm not spending all this money if I'm still playing. I'll go play the old game then, on my old, This is crazy. So I think they have to be careful. This is really all about it. I mean, Microsoft's actually been pretty good at this so far, and what you said with EA makes sense. Back in the day, they were smart. Like when Call of Duty came out for PlayStation 3, I specifically remember this for Call of Duty 3. It was Treyarch's first Call of Duty. They made a Call of Duty for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. And they made another Call of Duty 3 for the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox normal. But they called it the Big Red 1, and it was a different game.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
And so that's the way it should be now. You should be giving everybody everything you have in the new God of War to make it as beautiful and as great as possible on the current platform that is available. And then not spreading it out so, well, yeah, that looks good, but we got to make sure that works on PS4 too. No, bro, PS4 is 10 years old. That means Kratos is never going to look as good as he should look. He's not going to look as good as he should look on PS5. We're not going to get the ray tracing. We're not going to get all the things that we should be getting because you're still holding the developers back to old stuff. Yeah. And that's just not fair to me.
No, I agree. I agree with that.
Like, I'm not saying don't make a God of War game and release it for the PS4, but it shouldn't be the exclusive for PS5. It should be different and do like they did in the old days, where on the PlayStation Vita, they'd slap out a God of War game that was not for PS3 or PS4, but it was made for the Vita. So it was a different story, different everything. So it wasn't holding the developers back from making the best God of War game they could for the system that was currently the leader in its field.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that. I feel like you could still make a single game for both, but I feel like you make it for the more technologically advanced, and then you just take out as much as you need to make it work. Like, that's the price you pay for not buying a new system.
Look at Cyberpunk.
You get the super stripped down. It's like you don't get as many trees, you don't get as many buildings, you don't get the shiny this that. It's like don't say you have to make this to where it works on PS4. Say make it to where it works on PS5. And then figure out what you need to strip out to make it work on PS4, afterwards. Maybe even have it be a later release. Maybe you have one release where they make sure they get it right, and then, a few months later, they can have another release of the game on the older consoles that are for them, that after they've taken the time to kind of be able to go back in and reprogram it or whatever. I know I'm trying to think of the game is what I'm struggling. There's a game that did that.
Look at Cyberpunk. Mm-hmm. It was stripped down. It's stripped down on PS5 and Xbox Series X already a little bit, right? Yeah. And then when they released it for the PS4 and the Xbox One as a cash grab, didn't even work.
Yeah.
And when you played it, it was mostly hot garbage compared to. But think of what that game could have been if they could have ignored PS4 and they could have ignored Xbox One and just ran with NVIDIA 3070s and 3080s and everything. Just ran with the current technology. That game would have been. I mean, it runs pretty good on the PC, to be fair. But imagine what that world looks like if all they're doing is focusing on DLSS and ray tracing. And building a world with that particular set of tools instead of having to go, oh shit, that's too much. The PS4 is not going to run that. We gotta. Then you go through, you start slicing everything out, and everything breaks because it's not the foundation in the house that you built in the first place. It's a house of cards. It doesn't work anymore.
Right.
It's not what the artist envisioned. It's not what the programmers worked on. It's an ugly. Like, remember the Wii games? Remember Call of Duty for the Wii? We were like, what the hell are we playing? What is this shit? You know, compared to what it used to be. So I don't know.
They kind of did that on the Switch too. Like the Switch was, they would put games out like game shooters went out on the Switch, and it always looked like significantly, more watered down and worse. Sometimes it wasn't even high HD. They'd have to make it like 720p just to make what they made for the other systems work.
And then they got the balls to charge the same price.
Yeah.
This is $60 on this one, and oh, by the way, here's a Lamborghini at $60. But if you want that Ford Taurus, that's $60 too.
Yeah.
Like, what? So, anyway, what's your final thoughts on E3? Do you have any? Are you going to be streaming any of the conferences live and talking about it while they happen? Are you going to be doing anything special? Because I know you like to do just chatting.
That just because, my just chatting streams tend to do about as good as anything, if not better than my regular streams. So, that might actually be exactly what I do. I might
you're welcome.
Find a few of them and peek in and that's a good idea. Ply, good solid work.
I am probably going to be live with the Microsoft Bethesda one Sunday, June 13th at 1 p.m. at PlyRock Nation on Facebook. I'm probably going to be doing that one. Some of the other one, there is I think this was interesting for you especially. There is a special PC gaming showcase, PC gaming only, that Sunday night at 5:30, and they will be highlighting Dying Light 2 and some other things, but they're gonna show tons of exclusive Steam games and games coming out specifically for PC Sunday at 5:30. I think that's the 12th. I want to say that's June 12th. So
it's usually the last night.
Yeah. Well, this is all spread out. It's weird. Like, they say that E3 is the 11th through the 15th. However, there's something going on before. There's something going on after, so it's all over the place. So make sure you guys check out E3.com to get the actual official schedule. Don't listen to us jamokes as we try to nail down some of these times. Preacher, where can they find you, man?
Right now I'm at Twitch TV, or twitch.tv/PreacherOren, at PreacherOren on most social media, and then YouTube, you'll just have to look up my PreacherOren because I don't have enough people to have a youtube.com/PreacherOren yet. You'll just have to type it in and then find me over there.
And I'm just going to say this. If you made it all the way through this beautifully crafted hour of conversation,
precision,
then the only thing I'd ask you to do for me as a reward is find me on TikTok and fucking duet me, please. PlyRock Nation on TikTok. That's your call to action this week from me. Ladies and gentlemen, I am one of your humble hosts, PlyRock. He's the less humble host. That is Preacher Oron. We will see you guys on the next Reboot Engage.